I don't have one. I mean, it may have been, and I just haven't seen it, but I mean, it hasn't been.
Unless anybody else wants an agenda.
I don't know if
I'll take a.
I mean, I'll go get it. It's right there. I'm already running around if you want.
Mr. Gregg, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
That sounds awesome. Yay, that sounded good.
Fancy new digs.
You're right, Rod.
Can you hear me?
You sound great,
Alan,
Mr.
can you hear
Gregg.
me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right, 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. We're gonna figure it out. The only ones we've got to add to the agenda this evening is 6A, which is rollover request from FY '21. And I guess we'll put that on the consent agenda. And then 7A, under old business, is Leather Plain. Mr. Wigby's request. Mr. Wigby, got anything else to add?
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have anything we need to add?
Mr. Jackson, if you could speak more directly into your microphone, we're having difficulty hearing it.
Excuse me. You hear me now?
Perfect, thank you.
There you go. Sean Gregg's on with us. Anybody else have anything we need to add to the agenda? Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. As always, let's start with public comment. Public comment. Anybody? All right. Special appearances. Let's start with Ms. Shepherd from VDOT. Ms. Shepherd, welcome.
Is that better?
Not really. Speak loud. You'll play with it.
Okay. Am I controlling the slides? Okay, great. So go ahead and get started in the first slide. Our preliminary engineering updates. These have largely not changed since the last meeting. For the ARC at Shelby, though, I do have an update. We are moving towards public hearing. We are scheduling that tentatively for October 12th. There will be information coming out about that in September, and we are planning on having a virtual public hearing this time. There will be a formal presentation, several VDOT people available to comment. And then, of course, people can send in their public comments 2 weeks prior and 2 weeks after by mail or email. And we're still on target for an August 2023 add date. For our rural rustics, Forest Drive is under construction right now. We're planning on surface treating that in the next couple weeks. Pea Ridge Road is set to begin construction in August, and Desert Road is in the process as well, since we have the resolution for both phases 1 and 2. Construction activities, not too much to report at this time. Repton Mills Road was completed a week early. We opened that August 5th, and it was scheduled to be open August 13th, so that's good news. For our traffic engineering reports, we finished the crash review at Valley Road. That was completed this past time. We also finished our study at 15 at North James Madison Highway. The recommendations were to install transversal rumble strips on the 2 secondaries leading up to 15. Since we completed our review, Mr. Weekly has asked us to look at that again, considering the through traffic on 15 not slowing down to the warning sign. So we're going to look at that again and see what other countermeasures we can think to put out there to help with safety. Currently under review also is Twyman's Mill Road. That's a speed study that's in progress. It's pending field data. And that wraps up my quarterly report. I do have a couple other things I'd like to mention. We were made aware of some accidents at Pratt's. So we went out there yesterday. We actually scheduled a field review, met out there with our traffic engineer. While we were out there, we also spoke with Sheriff Weekly and Weaver. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. And he indicated that most of the crashes were from people running the stop sign north on Route 231. I reviewed the crash history today, and that is indeed the case. That seems to be the largest number of crashes. So what we're looking at right now is to install either a solar-powered stop ahead sign to draw more attention to it, or a solar-powered stop sign, the one with the red lights around the stop sign at the intersection. It should be, it's a relatively low-cost countermeasure. We can use county safety and operational funds. So we're looking to proceed with that as long as I have concurrence from the board.
be any heartache to putting a flashing stop sign?
No, all I'd say is that it needs to be on the side of the road. If you put it in the middle between the two lanes, it will not last long.
Right.
No stop sign has ever lasted more than a couple of weeks in the middle of the two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's why we moved to have a stop sign on either side.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, this would help draw more attention to it, so.
And the rumble strips are worn down, right? The rumble strips need to be replaced, correct?
I drove those yesterday and I thought that they were in pretty decent shape. They're only 2 years old. So we weren't looking to replace those at this time. We are, though, going to be daylighting signs to make sure that the stop ahead signs as you're heading toward the intersection are perfectly visible, because right now there's a little bit of obstruction. And we're also going to boom ax the bank as you're looking, as you're sitting at that same spot north on Route 231, that stop sign, as you're looking right, that bank could be cleared to improve sight distance as well. So we're going to do that with our maintenance forces.
We need something at Krauts. I mean, it's the same exact accident over and over and over again. Need to do something.
I also will offer, so this intersection did not score to be funded as part of the round 4 smart scale, but we are starting to prepare for round 5. So if you would like to resubmit that project, we can work with you. I'll get Chuck Proctor and myself, and we can sit down and get the application ready, and we can resubmit that for round 5.
Was there specific reasons that it didn't score well before? Is there anything we can add to it to make it score and hopefully be awarded? Or?
Potentially, and that's what we can sit down and talk about. We can review the design. The reason it didn't score well was because of the substantial right-of-way costs that were required to obtain that parcel on the corner of that building. And that's the primary reason it didn't score well. So if we can make adjustments, you know, who knows, it may get funded in round 5.
All right. And at 15 at Oak Park, making progress there, cleaning signs off.
Yes, we are also going to have our maintenance forces out there to clean the signs, make sure they're daylighted as much as possible. We are going to proceed installing the rumble strips and adjusting the stop bars for the 2 secondary, 614 and 634. And then we're also going to take another look about, you know, what we can do on 15, because the sight distance coming off those secondaries is not, you know, it's not matching the speed that people are going. It would match the speed if people slow down to 40, like the warning signs indicate, but it's not matching the speed that people are actually driving.
All right. Other questions, Ms. Shepherd?
Yeah, Ms.
Sorry, go ahead, please go.
Well, just real quick, so daylighting, I happen to live on 634. When you say daylighting, there's a relatively new sign there. It is, I guess, north of the interstate, just north of so you're looking north on 15 when you're coming out of 634, and it's exactly at the right height that an F-150 is looking at the backside of the sign rather than the traffic that's coming southbound on 15. So I wonder if your guys may look at that while they're there. It's something pretty specific, but in terms of daylighting.
So it's blocking sight distance.
Yeah,
it's in the way.
You realize it pretty quickly, I think, at least in daylight.
Okay.
I wonder if you might miss it though, some, other important times. Was John, you going to ask the question about the rural rustic thing, or?
I was going to talk about a citizen calling about Race Ground Road, but I did want to mention, while you're on the topic of that intersection, Mr. McGee, my conversation with Ms. Shepherd was, and I appreciate her explaining the purpose of rumble strips, but until you get rid of the sight distance issue coming 15 north, that rumble strips could maybe give you at least some kind of audio, whether it's raining or not, to roll down your window. Because if you're making a left off Rappahannock Road, 15 south to Orange, or making a left off Oak Park, positioning on 15 north, it's a difficult situation. And I think that's where most of the impact of crashes and how that's occurring. So I appreciate you going and taking another look. I'm not an engineer, so I'm not sure what are the tools. So that was one of the original discussions. The request I have to members of the board, because it's your direction to give the VDOT, is I had a phone call from Mr. and Ms. Wharton of Race Ground Road, and their concern is folks speeding on that road. And I believe a couple of years ago, the General Assembly made it law that all gravel roads are 35 miles per hour. I wasn't sure if the board would like to request a speed study done. I told Mr. Wharton I would follow back up after this meeting of the board's decision in or direction. They also asked about the 6-year plan, but that's something I can handle. I can get that out to them. I explained that gets reviewed every year, and a 6-year plan could be a 20-year plan. That's no offense to you, ma'am. I know how the funding works, and it's very, very limited. So mainly the speed study, members of the board.
We've requested multiple times over the years speed studies. The only real results of speed studies is basically increased enforcement. Is that right? Or, I mean, what would be the solution once the speed study is performed?
It's a review of the speed that people are traveling as they feel comfortable. So, if it's, we have had instances where we've had gravel roads turn to paved roads. We do a speed study after those with the rural rustic process. And, we've signed them at 25 just because they're so curvy and still narrow. So it's really just to look at how people are driving and if a lower speed limit is warranted. I mean, we have a lot of rural roads paved they're all statutory 55. Whether that's appropriate or not is another story. So the speed study would give us information about that.
Right.
And that was the crest. They would like to see it lowered, but again, the speed study to determine that.
I always think just tell the mail lady. But all right, y'all want to do a speed study on Race Ground, see what we get? Let's
Okay.
do that one. Kevin, you want to talk about the rural rustic?
Yeah, sure. I think we got, I don't know if everybody's checked their email or not, but we got approached today. I guess they knew you were coming tonight. I guess it's a rural rustic question. It's among the many unsurfaced roads that folks are experiencing challenges. VDOT's experiencing challenging maintaining unsurfaced roads with the kind of rains we get when we get rains right now. And so it's another one of those that, folks that live along the road are just sure that if it were hard surfaced, that VDOT's problems would go away. And so this person's done a little homework and looked at the qualifications for rural rustic. And I communicated to this person that I thought they had someone from that road. It's John Myers. John Myers.
Yeah, John Myers.
John Myers Road. I don't doubt that it's a bear to deal with. And I'm sure VDOT's area headquarters is out there all the time, recleaning ditches and restoring stone and stuff like that. But the question was, could we include that as a request to be included as a rural rustic, and mentioned it, and she had a copy of some of the requirements for rural rustic. Nowadays, I think the maximum vehicle per day counts to qualify as 1,500 vehicles per day. But I think what we found the last time we were contacted about this road, that there's also a minimum, or used to be a rule of thumb minimum, for whether we would look to hard surface a road. My memory was it was 50 vehicles per day, but is it still 50?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So that's probably the issue with John Myers. I don't know what kind of traffic counts that has.
Where?
But
I can check.
Where is John Myers? Everybody,
it's right along the Robinson River. If you go over Uncle
Yeah.
Bob's Bridge on the
yeah.
heading towards Madison and turn right, and you go. John Myers goes along the river and up over the hill and drops down on, is it Ayla Road? I think it's a short road.
All right.
I don't think it carries very many.
That's what I was thinking. Exactly. Isn't it? It's gravel.
It's unsurfaced. That's
All right.
pretty sure.
Yeah. There you go. All right.
Anyway, I promised this person I would ask that question, and now I have, and received an answer. So thank you.
All right.
We can start reviewing that. I mean, and then when we come around next year to secondary 6-year plan prioritization, we'll have a good feel for if it qualifies or not. I mean, and we can continue that discussion throughout the year, so we can look at it.
Okay, thank you.
I think, isn't John Myers where the road used to go? Is that right or wrong?
Some of it.
Yeah, some of it. All right, there you go. All right. Add that one, start looking into it. What else we got for Ms. Shepherd? Anybody? Ms. Shepherd, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Before we go to Firefly, Mr. Smith and Rich are here from Norman Smith. They're the ones that kind of got this building going in the right direction, along with Roger Berry and Brian Gordon and everybody else, and Livingston, who's not here. I think it looks pretty good. Gentlemen, thank y'all very much for your hard work. Anything y'all would like to throw in?
We appreciate the opportunity to work with the county, and I want to express it with a team effort. The board is involved in it. Roger, Bruce, had a lot of headaches with the AV, and stuff. Did a great job. He worked with us. With Jack Hopkins here. We're very pleased with it turned out. We look at you all are too, and the last.
There you go. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Now let's go to Firefly. Gentlemen.
Well, good evening.
Hey.
Let's make sure this can get pulled up. All right. As you may recall, we were here last month and told you that we would be back this month to give you some firmer numbers in our final project map. I was not able to be here last month, but my name is Galen Creekmore, work with both Central Virginia Electric and Firefly Fiber Broadband. We also have Firefly's general manager here this evening, Dennis Reese. Thanks for being here, Dennis. If we can go to the next slide. This is our RISE project area, as we're calling it, that Carolina blue color. You'll recall from our previous presentation that this project area is a grant, VATI proposed grant application to the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, or VATI. It'll touch parts of 12 counties, parts of 5 planning districts. VATI is really pushing universal projects, regional projects, and with the governor's addition to his budget and now General Assembly approval of $700 million being added to the VATI budget for this year, we really think it's time to strike while the iron's hot with this regional project. So if we go to the next slide and zoom closer into Madison, we'll get into the specifics later on in the presentation of the number of unserved and how that changed from when we were here last month. There were additions to this map that we made from last month. And in fact, it was an eye-opening experience for us. As you recall, last month we told you we were in our study phase and we were trying to identify every unserved area. Madison County was ranked the highest out of all 12 counties for percentage of unknown unserved that we didn't know were out there that we found, if that makes sense. It speaks to, as everyone knows, the federal broadband mapping is way off, and it really is a part of, we thought more areas were claimed or covered by Comcast than what we really found when we did our field study. There were actually more unserved. And then we'll get into later, but since I'm on the slide, we also included portions as we worked with county staff over the last month and got their approval to do so. We included portions of RDOF areas. That's the FCC Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. RDOF areas that were won by both CenturyLink and Fiber Light, not Fiber Link, but Fiber Light. Those are, the CenturyLink was on towards the western side of that map. The Fiber Light was kind of the northeastern side of that map, there were some circles there that we included in our project. We did that because if CenturyLink or FiberLight would like to submit a challenge to those areas and prove that they will indeed in good faith build them, they will need to enter a contract with the county itself to say that they will build those areas out in 3 years instead of the 6 years that normally would be required by the RDOF program. You may ask why the northern corner of the county is not covered, because that is an unserved area. This is still considered a universal coverage of unserved areas because that northern area was actually won in the RDOF auction by Shintel. Shintel has been communicating with us. They've shown in good faith they're going to cover that. They've entered conversations with Rappahannock Electric Cooperative, which we're in constant communication with. So we feel confident that that area will be served by Shintel, and we're glad for it. So that's being taken care of by another provider, and we're happy about that. And that's why it's not part of our project, because it's already won federal funding. So let's go to the next slide. I mentioned Rappahannock. There's multiple partners that make this happen. Of course, Firefly being the ISP, Rappahannock Electric will be on their infrastructure. Of course, the county's been an integral part of this, and the Thomas Jefferson Planning District. I mentioned this project is the regional project for VADI is touching 5 different planning districts, which actually gives us some bonus points on the grant application itself. The Thomas Jefferson Planning District will be the lead applicant on behalf of the rest of the co-applicants, because every county within the Thomas Jefferson Planning District is also part of this project, and it helps facilitate the grant funding a little easier to have it run through the one planning district versus having one county be the lead applicant and then everyone else listed as co-applicant. Next slide. So here's the figures, getting into the meat and potatoes of things, so to speak. The unserved number, that's an increase by over 1,500 than when we came last time with you. That 3,204 unserved passings. Total miles of fiber will approach 400 miles just in our project. Total network construction costs will be approaching $26 million. What we're here to have the county approve tonight is that number at the bottom, the call it 2.5 million. And you can see our VADI request there as well. There's a little bit of nuance in this number, and if you'll indulge me, I'll take a few minutes to discuss that. This number, because of the increased, or large number of increased number of unserved passings, we base the county request on a per passing basis, and that actually was getting high enough to where we didn't feel comfortable with the amount of money that the county was given through the American Rescue Plan. So we actually dropped the per passing number to bring that county request down to a number that would be within reason in accordance with what the county's been allocated through their ARPA money. And so, again, let's go back to those RDOF locations from CenturyLink and FiberLight. If they do come back to the county and challenge that and say, no, we're going to have plans to do this, that's great. They'll enter, again, a contract with the county. We'll pull those areas out of our service area, and we will then decrease the county ask. When we save money, the county will save on their requested portion. So if we do pull that out, that'll be pulled out of and again, that's about, it's 1,562 locations just in those 2 RDOF areas. So it'll drop it down if that were to happen. And again, those areas will be built out in 3 years instead of 6 if that happens. Let's go to the next slide. So talking about the schedule, we're here tonight. The VATI application, we're working feverishly to get it everything completed by the 14th of September. We have been assured, it's funny, in the past, the VATI program has never announced an award on time, but we have an outgoing governor, and we have been promised that awards will be announced in December 2021. So we feel confident that'll happen. And we say you can assume 6 months. Connections can start 6 months from when you first see construction happening in the area because of the make-ready work required to get on the infrastructure. We have the different crews will come in and run the cable that the fiber will be lashed on. The fiber is then lashed. Service drops are put in, and you can, from start to finish, when citizens first start to see that happening in their area, you're about 6 months out from connections actually happening. So this is, hope you probably have this before you in writing, but I included, this was a resolution that we sent over to the county that includes all those figures. So tonight, what this resolution really accomplishes is 2 things. After your approval, this will list you as a co-applicant on our VATI application, meaning making you officially one of those 12 counties on our VATI application that we're submitting on the 14th. And then we'll set aside or commit that 2.5 million. A quick word on that is that's not paid in one lump sum. How we see that happening and why it's helpful to have the planning district as a lead applicant is we'll probably be sending invoices to the planning district on a monthly basis saying, for instance, we've completed 20% of our work in Madison County. They will then look at our invoices and see the work we've done in Madison County. Then they will facilitate and draw down 20% of that matching fund on a percentage share as we go through construction. So that'll be paid out as we'll actually receive the money probably months after we send that invoice because it has to run through invoicing of planning district, and then VATI sees the same invoices, and then the money flows through. So it'll be paid out as we work through construction. So with that, I'm sure you have a few questions. I'll be happy to answer whatever I can. And we really feel like it's a unique opportunity with the funding being made available and the coalition of partners we put together. So we look forward to having you part of this.
Who has questions for Mr. Creekmore? Jonathan, you have anything down there?
There was also a construction partner agreement that was, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Construction partner agreement that was sent over that specifies the construction team. So there's that side in the county. So the expectation is there will be a monthly update. It's my understanding. So I just want to make sure we're communicating that to the board too.
Yeah.
As they go through this, there's not only the invoice inside, there will be a review of the report that would also make its way to you so we can track progress together.
That's exactly right. And we'll have a period of that construction agreement that you brought up there. No board action is required on that until we receive the grant. Thomas Jefferson Planning District will then negotiate with VATI, and then the county will execute that agreement between Thomas Jefferson Planning District, Firefly, and the other partners. So we'll have months to review that. No action will be taken on that agreement until spring of next year, probably the timeline we're looking at once this is accomplished. So we can work with the county and make sure that funding is exactly, or that wording is exactly what needs to be in there for the county. So that would, tonight's just the beginning of the conversation. That construction agreement will actually be executed in the spring of next year.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, basically what you have before you tonight is a resolution where you are agreeing to the local match. Just for some background for the board, Madison County was awarded $2,575,794 However, the request, as was just stated, is $2,563,200. So there is a delta of just under 13K. That's if you're looking at ARPA funds. They're not specifying funds, they're specifying the local maps. That's what you have before you tonight. And the resolution in your packet is also on the screen for members of the public.
Questions from the board? Essentially, the billing on this runs from you all to the planning district and then directly to us. It doesn't have to go through an IDA or a EDA or anything?
No, my understanding, since it's not coming from a board to a private entity and it's going through a planning district, it wouldn't have to take that extra step. Now, if the board, you're not required to run through the planning district. That was the most streamlined process. The board has the option to run it through an EDA, and that would require you, it would be redundant, I think, to run it through the EDA and then the planning district.
No, as long
I'm not a lawyer, but the other counties we've worked with, I think.
No, that sounds like just a fine way. It's
sure, just
one piece of the puzzle is what it is.
Sure, absolutely.
And this is a big thing for Madison County. I mean, you're talking $2.56 million going into fiber directly to people's homes in an underserved area.
And if I can speak to the citizens, this money will go towards our installation is free when we're making construction. Our equipment is free inside the home. If you get nothing but our internet package, there's no tax on internet, so it will literally be just our internet pricing cost to you. $49.99 is what you will see on the bill if you get that package. We will run near a half a mile, 2,500 feet down long driveways for free at no cost. If you're low to moderate income in the county, we're including those within our grant application. So if they happen to be a lower moderate income household that has a driveway longer than a half a mile, then we'll go to those homes as well. If they're not low and moderate income, then I think it's about $1.10 a foot after the half a mile extension, but that will cover most long driveways in the county.
Who else has questions for Mr. Creekmore?
I got please. So, Mr. Creekmore, how did your field work in Madison was a lot of that a result of the surveys? Did we respond to the surveys and that helped? Or?
Yes, it did. The survey and speed test did help. And people say, well, people were concerned. We got some concerns on how are you surveying unserved areas that that don't have internet. But actually, we did get a lot of those responses because we say it's a survey and speed test. So people can, if they ever get cell phone service, which everyone has a cell phone, they were able to log on and not take a speed test, but just say, yeah, I don't have internet at home. So we still collected those folks and got a number of those actually.
Okay.
And then folks that just had abysmal internet service that took it at home and were able to do the speed test, we were able to capture those as well. But actually, that was only a small portion, I'd say, of our study work. We spent a lot of time in the county actually doing ride outs and finding the infrastructure. It's strange to me that you can't find any good maps and other providers don't necessarily want to share them because it's not a secret. This is permanent infrastructure that you can ride around and see. And that's just what we did. We rode out and what we ran into is some areas where it was claimed that this whole road was served. We rode out and we can see where it stops a quarter way down the road and the rest of the road is not served. So it was those type of things that helped us get a clearer picture of what actually is happening in Madison.
All right. My next question is, okay, so if this were to come to fruition and you stick a shovel in the ground, as they say, this coming February or January,
right.
The timing of it would be, did you all say 2 years or 3 years? My question is, how does that match up with when we have to have the ARPA money spent? ARPA money's got to be spent by what? September?
It's around 2024, I believe.
2024. So it's going to be. It'll be tight, right?
My understanding is there was actually an extension to 2026 on
Is that right?
on the county expenditure of ARPA money. I'd be happy to confirm that with you, but
Well,
working with other counties.
We'll confirm that.
Yeah, my understanding is there was a recent extension that 2026. Let me speak to the timeline. For the whole regional project, it's a 3-year build on the VATI money. How that squares in Madison is we don't just build one area at a time, and to keep up with the timeline, we have to build concurrently. So as I mentioned, there's different phases to building fiber, and we're gonna, as the planning and engineering is complete in one area, they move on to another substation, and that's just what we're gonna do. We come from the electric side of things. Our parent company of Firefly is Central Virginia Electric. So you saw in the slides I had put the electric accounts in the county. We think in terms of electric infrastructure, and we're going to look at REC substations and build out substations. REC is also conducting a middle mile ring to connect their substation. So there's multiple paths actually within Madison utilizing REC's middle mile program between their substations and existing Firefly fiber that we'll have already in place to the south of the county in Greene. And we have co-op members in Orange County as well. So kind of on there are 3 different paths within the county. We're going to be working on multiple substations at the same time. So there's not a specific down to the month timeline for any county in particular because of the design aspect of that.
So
but
I was just trying
Madison
to
certainly won't be the last.
ascertain that the window of your work would track
Yes.
the window of the
Well, and to be sensitive to that,
Okay.
every other county is using ARPA money. So we're going to be cognizant of that because every other partner is using that as well.
Now, my next question, Mr. Wood has addressed us twice, and very reputable individual. It's just really a coincidence that our ARPA money is right equal to what we need as match. Does Albemarle's ARPA money equal their match? Or is it because you said we were at the top of the list of the unserved, so?
Yeah, to be frank with you, our costs were more, because of the density or
Okay,
lack thereof
that's
of
right.
Madison County, we needed to request more like $1,000 per passing in Madison.
Okay.
That would have put Madison over the top of their ARPA allocation. And we looked at that. And we didn't want that. So we actually redesigned some things and dropped it to about $800 a passing, which still reflected about a $400,000 increase from what we previously told you. But we've added almost 1,600 new passings. Keep in mind, it may or may not be in there, so it may not be as tight as we think. But that, first of all, that number is not going to go up. That's a not to exceed number. So if we go up, that comes out of us, we don't come back to the county asking for more. But Madison was the only one where we were not anticipating that many more new unserved passings.
Got it.
So we had to frame some things to bring it back to more accurate picture.
I appreciate that. So one more question is, so I live in the northern section of the county, and I've already had folks say, well, what about us? And I tried to explain the Chantel thing. So for the residents of Madison County, this county is going to have to get ready to address a presentation by Chantel and a match on that side down the road as well, right?
What it sounds like.
But
Yeah,
no, not for the VATI grant. That was the RDOF thing that's already.
yeah, and I'm not.
In.
I can't speak for Chantel. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
aware
know.
that they would require matching funding. We almost have to require matching funding to make a viable
Sure.
VATI grant because number one of the scoring, and there's certain benchmarks that we know the state says you need to hit this cost per passing to be a fundable project.
Right.
So that brings that passing
Oh,
down.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that all, Mr.
Sure.
Whitmore. I was saying, for the benefit of the citizens that are going to mark down, we're going to have total coverage in the county for $2.6 million. That is not true. There will be more to come.
Could be true. Chantel's received that money, so they could build it out. I mean, that's
With no match.
yeah.
I mean, that's how it's worded. They receive this funds to build out by the state.
Within the 6 year.
Within
period.
6
Yeah,
years.
that's right.
But and it may be helpful for the county, for the citizens in the northern part of the county. It's helpful sometimes to see your home inside of a colored area. If they go on the FCC 903 RDOF auction winners website, you Google that, it'll pop up and it'll show a colored region up there. You click on the colored region, it'll show Chantel won that area in northern Madison. And that's why we feel comfortable that this is a universal project. And at the end of this, it'll be every unserved location in Madison will be covered, because we know Chantel's already speaking with REC. They've told us they're working on that. So we know they're going to actively be hooking up people there.
That's all.
There you go. Any further questions? We do have a resolution in front of us, 2021-19, and it's a resolution of Madison County Board of Supervisors to participate in the regional project fully support the application, including providing local matching funding. It is what's up on the projectors on both ends. It states the speeds 25 megabits or megabit Mbps downloads at 25, and then 3 upload. Total project at $25,675,000, with the matching part of Madison County being $2.563 million. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution 2021-19.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all. We're going to go get to work.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the answer to the question earlier, funds do not have to be obligated until December 31st, 2024, and unexpended funds are not subject to recapture or return until December 31st, 2026.
There you go. Good. Thank you.
Good research.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a consent agenda here. We've got minutes from August 10th. We've got encumbrances for the GeoCom at $6,477. We have encumbrances for Mission Critical Partners of $2,064.85. And then we have invoices from Clark Nexus for $47,655.65. And then we have multiple rollover requests from FY21. Anybody have questions, comments, thoughts? You want to pull anything out of the consent agenda? Where are we at, folks?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We decided at the last meeting that we won't roll around the room and hit all the constitutional county offices. I guess I'll open it up if anybody's got anything they want to share with the group for constitutional offices, county departments, committees, and organizations. Anybody have anything?
Sure. I'd like to give a little update on what's going on in finance.
Sure. Mr. Fryer, do you mind? Yes, sir, please. We finally have microphones that work, so we're going to use them.
Good evening, and thanks for letting me be here. I thought I'd just give you an update. I don't really have financial data today, but we've been working really hard in the finance department, and the staff has been great. And I'm trying to really focus on some of the objectives that you guys gave me when I first came in. So I thought I'd let you know that we are reviewing the FY21 budget, and we're making sure that each and every supplemental appropriation that you guys approve throughout the year is recorded properly. So we're working on that. We're not quite finished, but we're almost there. Also, been looking at some FY22 budget and some of the anomalies that took place. I think just simply some coding combinations between FY21 and FY22 is causing some confusion with the departments. I don't see anything glaring that is a problem, but we're going to review the FY22 eventually and try to get it back in line exactly like it was in FY21 so that for now we'll be consistent and everybody will be on the same page. The other thing that we're doing is looking at each and every departmental budget for FY21, comparing the budget to the actuals. And we went through a lot of that information, but we're not quite done. So I'm not prepared to give really a report. We're hoping to do that next board meeting in September. But we have done a lot. Again, I don't see anything glaring or anything quote wrong. There might be some coding problems, and that would just be from one department to another, not department, but internal, probably one line item to another. And a lot of the work that I'm doing is kind of fluid because when I came here, I'm really trying to help Michelle and help the staff be consistent, be confident, and get us on a schedule and to know, exactly what we're doing. So some of the topics, just so you'll have an idea, we're planning the audit for FY21, and right now we have dates of Ms. Earhart coming in, and that's October 25th through the 27th, and then Robinson, Farmer, and Cox, the auditors, will be here the week of November 8th. Also, we're seeing some other issues that I wanted to address. One thing was cross-training. So we're starting, actually, we started today. I was going to tell you tomorrow, but we actually started today. Cross-training some people inside the finance department to do some of the payroll and make sure that we know and have someone in place just in case Tilly was out for some reason, that somebody would know how to do payroll. So we've started that process. There's some other areas that I would like to see cross-trained, but to be honest, we're prioritizing to get everything done. We really need to probably focus on closing the year, getting the audit done, etc., and then we'll go back to some of the training. And then the last thing, I think, well, not the last thing. Next to the last thing, there's some operating, I'll call them SOPs, standard operating procedures that I feel maybe we need to start looking at that maybe hasn't been done here or has, but, just typical finance department type procedures where we are consistent and again, everyone is on the same page, and then that way if people come and go, we have something in writing what we're doing. And then the last thing is the ERP. Originally, that was kind of on my list as last, and if I had time in my contract, etc. But to be honest, I've kind of been drawn into it a little bit. And we're starting, there's a lot of training going on. So the finance department is going to be in training, I think, basically 2 days a week, starting in September. So that's eating up a lot of our time. And we're aware we can alter that schedule, but right now we're trying to really stick with that schedule because if we don't, finance is kind of phase one of the Munis project, the Tyler Munis project. And if we delay, then that means all the other phases delay. So we're trying to stick to that if we can. And so basically that's it. I just wanted to give you an update and let you know that, we've really been working hard and trying to smooth things out. And I feel like we're in a good place. Of course, I'll take any questions if you have any.
That's pretty good.
And it sounds like a lot has been accomplished.
Pardon me?
I said it sounds like a lot has been accomplished.
I feel like we have. I mean, sometimes I leave here and I think I really didn't do anything today. But then I realize all the conversations. I mean, I've met with the treasurer. I've met with the commissioner of revenue. I haven't met with each and every department head yet, and I'm sorry I haven't done that. But, I'm getting a handle on what's going on, all the fund structure, and some of the, quote, not major problems, but some of the issues. So So yeah, I think we have done it.
Well, questions from Mr. Fry? Mr. Fry, thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, sir. All right. Other constitutional committees, anybody have anything?
I missed the encumbrances. Did y'all do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get my office in it, or is that still not?
What was yours? Bear with me a second. It was a lot of it.
It may not, I mean, I asked for it, but I didn't fill out the spreadsheet, and I'm waiting for it. It should be about $16,000 for our case management, about 15 for the capital, and then
No, we don't have yours, Larissa.
and I'll work with them to figure that out.
All right. Get something and we can take care of it on this upcoming meeting. Oh, very good.
And we're in the middle of implementing that, so that second part will,
Just a minute.
but hopefully it'll be up and running for next week. I've got to go to the.
Thank you. Good luck. All right. Anybody else? Old business. Ms. Gordon, tell us about fiber run from ECC to Hoover Ridge.
All right, to give you a quick down and dirty while we're looking at this, when the radio project was originally designed, there was a monopole going at the Emergency Communications Center. We started looking at that, and it did not make really good sense. So that tower was spec'd at $245,422.23 after site work, tower implementation. Now, I think there's some additional savings there for microwave path. I'm working that with Motorola now. I've got a soft quote on a fiber run from our building to the tower site, which is displayed up there, for roughly $110,000. So we're looking at a cost savings of around $135,000 by doing it this way. And it's a much better link. We don't have to worry about weather. We don't have to worry about tree growth. We don't have to worry about any of that. The only thing you have to worry about is somebody running over the power pole with a bulldozer and cutting the fiber line, which we have a redundancy backup for that as well. So my question to the board tonight is, looking at future growth on Hoover Ridge, what we may want to do 10, 20, 30 years down the road, I'm quoting this run with 2, 3, up to 4 or 5 handholds for that future expansion. So I wanted to talk to the group. What do we see as the best path as opposed to that? The pink line would go in at the right of way where the soybean field is now and run the creek line down, cross the RC track, as Hoover Ridge calls it, and then bump back up to the road, go to the tower from there. The blue line goes in where the tent is now, and then comes across the ridge between the ball fields and then hits the road up there. Or the red line goes up Primary School Drive, cuts in Hoover Ridge, and follows the road all the way back. My general thinking is the blue line would be better because it gives you a more central location where we are now. But that field for future growth would obviously come into play if we were to go build a school 20 years from now in that location. You'd have fiber there. So that's what I'm looking at now, just looking for some direction on what we see. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but what we see going down the road, potentially at Hoover Ridge.
Which option is the cheapest?
I was told that they're just about the same regardless of what you do.
That's a disappointment. What do y'all think?
Within a couple $100.
Yeah, pretty close.
Dude, will any of this help benefit the schools?
This is a direct fiber link. The school already has their own fiber coming from the school board office.
Well, it's bad.
It is.
I mean, huh?
It is.
It's really bad. I mean,
Yeah.
we were on the Zoom thing the other day, and it kept cutting out, and then we had to go to using our phones. So
right. Right now, I'm looking at a 28 pair fiber line. If we get into much more than what we're looking at, then we're starting to get into a 56 pair, or even a 128 if we have to go that route. The more pair you put in there, obviously, the more expense you're looking at. But with that being said, while we got shovel in the dirt, it's gonna be cheaper now than it would be any other time.
Should be talking.
I mean, if we go from where we're at right now, what, 26 right now, 28 right now?
Yeah, that's what,
If we go from 28 to 56, what would it cost?
I'd have to dig into that because I'm not a fiber expert.
And
But
then the second part is that the correct amount to put in the ground?
obviously, we don't have a crystal ball.
No.
And we don't know what our bandwidth is going to look like 10, 20, 30 years from now. We have a pretty good idea of what we need right now. Obviously, Mr. Gal saying that the schools are not where they need to be. We could certainly make an effort to bump that up, but we would have to tie into the school infrastructure. The one thing that I do want to do with this is make it a dedicated path from the ECC to that, just because of what it is.
First and foremost.
Exactly. And if we can benefit something else, obviously we want to do that.
Talking to Jonathan earlier today, it sounds like we need to get a couple more prices.
I'm developing an
from different
RFP
vendors. Good.
now. I talked to ANS, but they do not have a procurement vehicle for us to ride on. So we either have to go up for RFP. I'm also talking to Motorola to see, because we are in a contract with them. If they have something there, they're going to price it. If they can come in cheaper than what I've seen, then we may end up using them. But again, if we need to make a decision on the bandwidth of it, we need to figure out what that's going to be.
That would be the question. If we're going down the RFP path, and which we need to do, to fulfill our legal obligation, should we also add a component to that to go from 28 to 56 and see what the cost difference is between the two?
Sure.
And understand if that is what we actually need.
Sure.
The term used earlier was handholds.
Handhold.
You're putting 4 or 5 of them in?
We can put as many as we want, but that's an access point. So they don't have
Okay.
to dig everything up. And
All right.
it's going to be sitting right there. We link into it and then trench off of that.
Okay. How would y'all like to proceed with this? Well, let's go with the path first. Is everybody sort of okay with maybe the blue?
The blue is by far the easiest. The pink, it's not going through a developed section there, right? We're going to have to cross at least one creek, which is very capable to bore under that. It's not a big deal, but it is an extra cost.
All right. Are we good with blue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that is the least official way to ever do this.
I can number them if you like.
We've consented with the blue. Let's see where we go when it pertains to procurement and try to figure out whether or not we need to add additional lines to it and make sure those are satisfactory, and then we need to go through the RFP process.
Okay.
Sound right, Jonathan? What do you got down there?
This does, and just to answer a question you had posed in our earlier conversation, this will come from the radio project, whichever, however you procure it through whatever service provider.
And that may be one thing we have to look at closely. If we're taking it from bond proceeds, if we start bumping it up for another project, we may be getting ourselves into an issue there. But at the same time, nothing saying we can't run this line and run one parallel with it, so to speak. I mean, while the hole's open, the hole's open.
When do you think you'll be coming back to us when it pertains to an award of this RFP?
I'm going to attempt to get the RFP out by the middle of next week. I've got some information coming in from Motorola about what they actually require between these two sites. And then I'll work with Bruce, ANS, the schools. I'll talk with Mr. Dodson out there to see what they would like as far as this. And then we'll try to get to an informed decision about what we're looking at.
Looking month and a half out, 2 months?
I hope not. Well, it really doesn't make any difference. Right now, we're looking at hopefully breaking ground on the Hoover Ridge site end of September, tentatively. If that happens, we don't want to run this until after that's done. Obviously, because we don't want a fiber line getting cut when they're digging a fence hole. So we're looking reasonably November, December of trying to get this thing done. So I think a month and a half getting through the RFP process is pretty close.
Anybody have any other questions for Brian? I think it seems like the right path to go down so that, one, we've got some savings and we don't have to put up another tower. And if we can tag on and add a little bit of capacity, maybe that's a good thing for everybody. Work for everybody? Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go to 7A, Leathers Lane and Mr. Wigby's request. Mr. Weekly, you want to lead this off, or?
Sure. And I don't know if you like Mr. Whitby's here tonight, it's his request, but as you know, the board some time ago, Mr. Gregg has cut his teeth, I think it was his words earlier, on a position paper for Leathers Lane and how requests are handled. So we did receive a request from Mr. Wigby to do some maintenance on the road. However, there are stipulations in this position paper that have a 14-day requirement to get feedback from all those involved parties. We not have that timeline. It's not has exceeded at this time, so we're still waiting. I do have a lot of responses, those who are for, those who are against, so we have that matter. However, we have to give the 14-day procedure. It spells out for a construction schedule, so I understand August 25th was the preferred date for Mr. Whitby to start, should everyone agree, but that does not say a schedule. So whether it's a 25th through 27th or whatever timeline, we would have to narrow that down more. So those are just some, I don't want to say obstacles, those are some items that have to be met as outlined in the position paper. I do know that Matt Ayla went to the site on August 23rd and reviewed lots 1 and 20, and that's the requested maintenance area, I guess the proper way to say it, that Mr. Whitby had requested. He didn't see any issues as far as, the two lots are in good condition. His request to York rake the gravel and spread the center of the gravel outwards to even the road surface should not negatively affect the road. There's also was some citizens up that way that expressed concerns about logs and sods. Matt's comments were there were also comments from other Leathers Lane speaking of the roadway being narrowed by the Whitbys with sod and logs. He stated the width of the roadway as seen in the picture, and I can provide his follow-up to the board, and I'll send this out to everyone on that email chain for Leathers Lane. It's not substantially more narrow than other sections of the road on Leathers Lane. Also, the logs referenced on lot 18 are not close to the road and do not appear to be affecting traffic. So, members of the board, I just suggest that we need to give the 14-day timeline as part of the position that we follow our own rules. And then from there, we'll follow up appropriately at the board level. And I don't know if Mr. Gregg is still on here. My understanding is do we have to have everyone's approval? That means everyone along that road, or is it just approval of those affected by the maintenance request of lots 1 and 20? Because that area doesn't affect everyone per se. So I'd like to give an opportunity to Mr. Gregg.
What do you say about this?
Briefly, I think if there's no opposition, then we don't need to have a hearing. But if there is opposition, we need to have a hearing. Typically, we schedule these hearings at the end of Board of Supervisors meetings, just because in the past we have learned that the hearings can go somewhat far afield.
Yep, there's some opposition. It looks like we're going to have a hearing. Anything else, Mr. Gregg? Anything else that we need to be aware of with this?
Not that I'm aware of. I have not read the opposition. There may be something in the opposition that causes some, legal concern.
So, Sean, I'm compiling those, and we'll send those all your way. Just for my full understanding, the public hearing, we're advertising as normal, like you would case with the Planning Commission and so forth. Is that the model?
Well, there is actually no need for an advertising requirement with this hearing because this is not really this is mediating a neighborhood dispute. It's nothing else.
Okay, so an agenda, an action item on the agenda is what I'm hearing.
And that's all that is required.
And notifying all those.
We do have to notify people in the most recent incarnation of the rules for that woebegone neighborhood. We do need to make sure that we have provided notice at the addresses that the interested parties have provided.
All right. So, Mr. Weekly, you're gonna send Mr. Gregg all the correspondence, and we probably are gonna have a hearing at the next Board of Supervisors meeting. Mr. Wigby, what would you like to add to this whole? And now it's part of it. I've come to enjoy these. What? Lot 1 and lot 20 are the two that you want to do some work in front of. All right.
Are they your two lots, Daryl, or you own 20 and 18? Lot 1 is up there by Stick. The one on the right before you get to Stick's house.
All right. So I'm sure your neighbors are paying attention to this because we got, I don't know, 5 emails within the last 30 minutes before the meeting. We'll make sure we get notice to everybody, and we will hold a public hearing and session on this at the next meeting.
I do have a question. Can you hear me? I don't know if my mic's working.
Yes.
What are the logs that you have on either side of the road? What are you using those for?
I placed, sorry. We had placed them back off the road, just so you can comment. If you tablet there, you can see when I'm.
But Matt Ayler says that the logs are not an issue.
I was up there today. I didn't see any logs. Where are they? Up over the bank?
They're off the road a little bit.
They're in the woods, where the woods and the green area meet.
Oh, it's actually in the woods.
The
Okay.
logs
I thought he was like lining the.
No, I mean, somebody's mowing both sides up and down that road. Is that you?
Yeah, we're mowing some
No.
up.
I mean, it's a mower
Oh,
with
okay.
like this on either side of the road.
Of course. All right. It doesn't sound like the logs.
No.
And we know that people are against the grass. It looks like we'll be able to hash all this out at the next meeting. And Matt Ayler's given us his synopsis, and it looks like it's pretty good. You were up there today. Still looking good up there?
Looks good to me.
Nice community.
Nobody's fussed about Stick's trailer.
Well,
Just thought of it.
now we'll throw that into the mix.
No, it looks good.
All right. So come back here in 2 weeks. We'll go at it again.
Okay.
So we're all looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other old business? All right. Let's go to the Madison County Rescue Squad resolution. Find it to be exceedingly sad that we're at this point. And I don't think that it's definitely not the volunteer rescue squad's fault. It's not the paid fault. It's not Madison County's real fault. The change in volunteerism and the requirements to run have just become cumbersome to the volunteer system, unfortunately. The level of service that is expected by citizens at the advanced life support level is what is expected at this point. We all understand that the volunteers have been in existence since, oh heck, I've got it here, since 1963. They are a vital part and link to public safety in Madison County. Mr. Weaver back here will tell us about the first ambulance that was, I guess, Margie Lamar's station wagon. And then the first extradition tool that I understand you all still have that was a leaf spring. It's a sad point that we're at, but public safety being one of the core functions of local government, it must be something that we address. Tonight we have a resolution to dissolve the volunteer rescue squad. It saddens me to be at this point. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say about this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I've thought about this long and hard, and my heart tells me to vote nay on this resolution, but the facts get in the way. And I can't deny the facts. And I can't deny the oath that I took in front of the judge up the street here back last January that talks about health, safety, and welfare. So I'm very saddened about this. I had no idea when I ran for the Board of Supervisors that this would be on the agenda. But I'm in favor of the resolution. I think the time has come. I think this is what's got to happen. And I hope and pray that many of the volunteer rescue squad members will continue to assist their paid staff. Steve Grayson, he and I were in class, all through school. His dad and my dad were together for years and years, best friends, and it breaks my heart, Steve. You have put your heart and soul into this. I know it. We all know it. And I appreciate it. And I think this is what's got to take place now.
I will tell you that at least 9 of our members have made application to the mayor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great. That's amazing.
So Steve, thanks.
Yeah.
Is 21-20.
Yeah. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution 2021-20.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you to the volunteers, and a sad day for Madison County. Any other new business this evening? Information and correspondence, Mr. Weekly?
We do have a few. Just to keep you updated on a few things, Mr. Yao brought before your attention at the last meeting that the town of Madison had planned to reach out to the county about an urban development area. Mr. Lamar has physically walked over. I can appreciate the savings on postage. A letter requesting next step for county and town staff to sit down and discuss the urban development area. I have reviewed this letter. I'm fine to pass that along or scan it to you. Stating that it's part of our comp plan. I don't disagree with it when it comes to high density. That's the normal fabric of the town. I see nothing there. It seems more to me from what I've read that it's more the ability to receive grants and things of that nature. UDA's normally started with higher populated areas, your Fairfax counties of the world. However, it was modified, if you will, to include rural counties that are rural towns that could claim this. So my plan, not looking for action, I was just going to tell you my direction. Of course, you could redirect me. That's your role. Was myself, Tracy, and Ligon. It makes sense from planning and tourism, and myself to sit down with them and just really talk about it. So if you're fine with that direction, I'll contact Mr. Lamar tomorrow and let them know. We'll see what it goes from there, and I'll report back to the board. So that's all I had on that matter. Next, just some other business items. I appreciate Tracy. She's our main point of contact when we're looking at business incubator, if you will. That's the space there at the tourism facilities. So as you recall, they're upstairs office space that we could rent out. We do have a new tenant that signed on to utilize some office space in the back. So that's good for the county. It helps an individual. They're into IT and risk management consulting. As long as they're not auditing us, I think we're fine. But in all seriousness, to utilize that space, I think is a win for us. Also, the park put out a press release. Plan on getting it on our website. There will be some public comment period. I don't believe it's been opened yet. They're proposing to raise fees, not entrance fees. So going into the park, whether you're in a car or a bus or what have you, those fees are the same. This would be campground fees. In backpack country permits, there are currently no fees. They're looking to implement a fee for that. But here's the one that I think is going to bring concern to you all and maybe the members of the public. Their number one trailhead, I believe, is still Old Rag. That's good for us. However, it's become a very hard point for them to navigate all of those folks coming. They believe the volume is really hard to manage. Maybe even the experience for those going there, a lot of people, they're not able to appreciate it unless you had a smaller crowd. So they will be pushing out the idea of tickets where you will reserve in a maximum limit of 800 people. Again, when we receive that information and those deadlines, we'll put that up on the county's website, but I at least wanted to let you know, and in my initial conversation with the Superintendent Kenny, amongst other things that we're looking to discuss, this was one of the things that he mentioned. And we're going to try to get our Blue Ridge Committee back together, kind of active. We know COVID's kind of pushed things off, but we can do physical, we can do virtual. I think that committee was good because they spoke on items like this and kept the board abreast of any new topics. So that, I believe, is all the information I have at this time, unless you have any questions for me.
Anybody have any questions for Jonathan? Any other correspondence?
Well, I think, I got one quick thing. Tickets could be available at the Syria store and the little country store in Atlanta.
Is that?
No, I'm just.
Okay, all right. I mean, we can market that.
I want these people to come in the doors of our establishments in Madison. Right now, they come in through Spurville, turn right after you cross the Hughes River, hike Old Rag, get back in their car, turn left, go back across the Hughes River, and they're gone.
I agree with that. I know Trace and I talked about maybe some kiosk things. I don't know if it's illegal maybe to tamper with GPS coordinates where it would redirect you to drive, but they do push the message out to come through Rappahannock and go up. So the trailhead is us, but I would like to see some benefit too. So I don't know if we have data that shows actual folks that make it over our way, but I'm with you, and I'm sure Syria would appreciate that also.
Did we do the kiosk thing before?
We talked about it.
All right, keep going.
Oh, and so the other thing, when will we know the final numbers on the Madison Primary School renovation? Will we find that out the next CIP
Should be the
meeting?
next, I would think so. I mean, it's wrapped up.
And we have a meeting coming up on the 1st. I believe it's either at 4 or 5. It's right before your joint planning commission meeting. So we can ask that question at that time. Occupancy, I know that was asked in prior. Jamie feels comfortable with everyone in this space and the schools. His reasons for not finalizing everything out yet, and I appreciate his approach. He wants to make sure we're kind of hanging on to punch list items get completed. So if that's a way to do it, I support it to make sure we get our items done. But he is very pleased, and the buildings can be safely occupied. So.
All right. Anybody else? Sean, Greg, you have anything, information?
I do not.
All right. Back to public comment. Public comment. Anybody have any public comment? Livingston, are they flooding in? No. All right, I'll ask y'all. Y'all hear us this evening? Is it better in here than it was previously?
All of our mics are working?
All right. Well, there you go.
Cool.
Oh, is it
You
good?
would appreciate the tweaking that they did. It was almost like a Phil Donahue approach when Livingston, he had the microphone kind of checking out the area. So appreciate all the work, seriously, that y'all did to tweak everything tonight.
Very good. We don't have a closed session this evening. Any other business? It's a pleasure of the board.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Thank y'all for coming.
I don't think my mic is.
Thanks, guys.
Hey,
Sorry I'm not there in person.
Good to hear your voice, sir. Thank you.
George that was creating the.
Yeah.